Everybody, and welcome to this video series, Accelerating AI with Continuous Delivery. Now, in part one, we'll be covering what is machine learning and going through the basics. Now, before we get started, let's see what the end goal of this video series is. Now, in the end, we want to have an app that tells us if an uploaded image is a dog or a cat. We also want to have it hosted online somewhere, obviously, and we want to have a deploy process ready so that our app, when we update it, it also updates the deployed version as well. And for that, we're going to be using CI/CD. And this is basically the end version. This is how the app is going to look like. So we can upload an image, and then in the end, we're going to get the result if it's a cat or a dog. Now, let's get started by covering the machine learning basics. Now, usually when we write computer programs, what we do is we just write code, right? So, and these problems are really simple, like summing up numbers and doing problems like linear regression, for instance. And in the end, we can write like a program that gives us this line, which basically covers the minimal distances between points. Now, there's a process to all of these. So we have an input, we write a computer program, and then we get an output. And this is always predictable. So there is a process. But what about some other problems, like everyday activities? For instance, speech, recognizing objects in images, or just regular thinking. Now, this is something we can't write a regular program for. And for this, we basically need to do something else. Now, these everyday activities that we deem very simple as humans, so recognizing speech, objects in images, or even thinking, now these are a bit different. Now, we're not going to be going into Skynet taking over the world, but we're going to be covering how computers can process this. Now, there's a thing called neural networks. So we have some input like audio, images, or text, and we process this data and learn from it. So you can see here in the image this green part, so the multiple hidden layers. This is basically the processing part, which basically processes our data, either images or audio or video, and then we kind of get the results in the end. So output produces results based on the problem that we are solving. So everything that's connected to recognizing either images or speech or stuff like that, we usually use neural networks for that. Now, for that, what we want to do is we need to train a model. Now, a model is a mathematical process. So imagine describing speech as a mathematical process, or describing, I don't know, this strawberry over here as a mathematical process as well. Now, this is basically a model. Now, when we want to do stuff like recognize speech or images or objects in images, we usually have this kind of process. So we have inputs. Our inputs are basically, images or audio recordings or stuff like that. And then we have this model. So this model is a mathematical process that describes what a strawberry, in my case, might look like. And then we get outputs. Now, the difference with this process is that we want to do this continuously. So in the end, we get loss. So what is loss? So loss in this case would be how our model predicts correctly if, in my case, this is a strawberry or not. So when we have different images of strawberries, we in the end want to kinda calculate if that image is a strawberry or not. And to do that, we assign weights to our models. So we can kind of fine tune these weights to get different results. But in the end, we kind of want to strive for at least 95% or more in our predictions. So we kind of loop this until we get good results. Now, how does recognizing objects in images actually work? Now, as said, this is done through a convolutional neural network. And here is an example of an image of a car. Now, what we do here, we kind of trigger a process. So first, we kind of filter out the features of a car. So you can see here on the right that we kind of do some sort of edge detection. Then we kind of filter it out a bit more. So we kind of detect edges. And then in the end, what we do is kind of condense this information. So usually what we also do is we kind of resize our images to the minimum amount possible so that we don't have to process that big amount of pixels. And this is how basically this process works. Now for this, we don't usually start from scratch. We kind of use existing models, and these are called base models. So pre-trained models, for instance, that kind of know how to detect a car in an image. Now then what we do is we kind of add or modify the layers of these models. So we add specifics to them. For instance, if we want to detect Volkswagen cars from existing cars, we kind of fine-tune the existing model that already knows how to detect cars from images. So we rarely start this process from scratch. Now, this is all that is to the basics of machine learning, but what's next in this video series? So next is we're going to check out the Kaggle platform, and what we're going to check out there is we're going to see and train a model to detect images of dogs and cats, and we're going to look at this example on Kaggle. So be sure to try this out, subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you in the next part.